Hi, my name is Kelly Ashford, and I'm excited to be here with you and share with you some of my story of when I was lost in the Colorado Rocky Mountain wilderness for 11 days and my near-death experience that happened. In 2009, our family lost our home during the mortgage crisis, and we moved into a rental in southeast Denver. This rental we call the Bad Seed House. It was haunted, and a lot of strange things were happening to us in that home and to our two boxer dogs as well. It was at this time that a compelling voice came into my life. It was a male's voice telling me places to go and things to do. So on this day in June of 2010, I didn't have any intention of going to the mountains or hiking. I was dressed in a pair of gym shorts and a short sleeve t-shirt and a pair of flip-flops. I thought I'll just drive around a little bit and visit a neighborhood home where I'd grown up and kind of get some closure on some things that had happened to me in my childhood. The next thing I know, I'm driving west towards the mountains and end up in Rocky Mountain National Park. I'm at the very top of Trail Ridge Road at the Ute Trailhead, and I decided to get out and walk for just a little bit. I brought a Gideon's Bible with me and thought I would just meditate for a little while. I ended up getting lost and spent the night on the mountain there. So the next morning I was so grateful to find my way back to my car. I had the beginning of frostbite on my feet. I get in the car and my intention is to drive home. I stopped at a 7-Eleven and grabbed a sandwich and a drink and some chips. That voice is compelling me again to continue driving. So I go north on a dirt road for about 15 to 20 miles. And I thought, what the heck am I doing? I need to go home. I never told anyone where I was going. I didn't have my phone. As I go to turn around on this old logging road, my car plunges into a creek and I'm stuck. There's no way to get out. The more I try, the deeper my tires go into the mud. That began the start of the 11 days lost. For the first 4 days, I stayed in my car. There was a huge blizzard and I was pretty much confined in the car. On the fourth day, as the weather cleared, I decided to walk back towards that 7-Eleven convenience store, and I couldn't walk. The road was covered in mud, about 6 inches deep, so I started walking barefoot. I thought I saw a house in the distance and began walking towards that house when I saw a movement in the forest and became distracted. And when I looked up again, the house was gone. So I don't know if it was a mirage, a hallucination. I've been off my lupus medications for about 5 days. So I continue walking, thinking I'm going to walk parallel to the road, and I have an encounter with a mountain lion. I was very scared and I thought this mountain lion was going to attack me, but I heard a voice telling me that I was going to be okay. And at that time I became very disoriented and was completely lost in the forest. So I'll jump forward to the fourth night. I'm sitting in almost complete darkness and I feel like something is watching me when I notice two silhouettes of people moving towards me. I get up to run and trip on a tree limb just as I feel hands grabbing me. The next thing, I must have blacked out. The next thing I know, I'm in a dungeon in a cave. It's dark. There's rats and insects crawling all over me, and the stench is just horrible. It smells like sulfur. I can hear people screaming and crying in pain, and I just knew I must be in hell. And the next thing I know, I'm sitting in the back of a cart being pulled by a horse, and this cart stops at a lake of fire, and inside this lake are thousands of people. I mean, just people everywhere. And they're trying to get out of the lake of fire. And as they're trying to get out, there's demons surrounding the lake. And as they try and get out, the demons pick them up and throw them back into the the lake and beat them down with clubs that they're holding in their hands. And I was terrified. I thought, this is what's going to happen to me. I'm going to be thrown in that fire. So the next thing I remember, I'm lying face down on a board and my face is looking forward and my mouth is gagged and I'm tied down. I'm watching a movie screen of my life. It was a life review. And in this review, I see myself as a child and teen and adult. And I see the good things and the bad things that I've done, sins that and mistakes that I made. And I thought, this is the end of me. I'm going to die here and be thrown back into that lake of fire. I felt myself vomiting and I was trying to scream and I felt myself vomiting and it felt like I choked on my vomit and died. The next thing I know, I'm going through a tunnel like a vortex. All around me were stars and it appeared like I was going through space. And in front of me was white light. And as I came closer, it was a planet that had all of these beautiful colors around it, like a crystal light and atmosphere. And I just assumed that I must be in heaven and came to a white castle, a large white castle. The castle was glowing in that luminous white light. And the next thing I know, I'm looking down at myself and I see myself being submerged in a pool of water. And it felt like it was maybe I was being purified or maybe blessed, I'm not sure. Then I found myself sitting in a large chair, like a throne, and the aura was like a fiery light. And I remember hearing God's voice telling me that I was going to be okay, and that if I was willing to share my story, that I could help a lot of people. Sitting around me were probably about a dozen people in those same large chairs, and we were sitting in a circle. In the middle of the circle was a hologram of Earth, and God told me, this is the state of Earth right now and things that are yet to happen. As I watched these clips Earth play out, I saw volcanoes and forest fires, earthquakes, and people in poverty. It just looked like we were suffering. People on Earth were suffering. And worst of all was a zombie apocalypse. And I was just horrified and shocked. And it appeared that these people were rabid, that they were sick with something. They were confined in cages trying to get out. And I asked God, why does this have to happen? Can't you give us a second chance? You know, it's hard to live on Earth. You know, we all make mistakes and we suffer a lot. And, you know, does this have to happen? And he said that this does not have to happen, that there's still time to change things, that he loves us. And the thing is that people don't believe in God anymore at all, and they don't have a relationship with God. And if they can come back home and pray to God again and obey the 10 Commandments, this can all be changed. So the last thing I remember is being held in his arms. I never saw his face. I only saw like his silhouette. And I remember him telling me that I would be okay, that I was going to suffer more, but I would be okay if I shared my story and that I would help a lot of people. So that was my last memory of heaven, is that beautiful love and happiness that I've never known before in my life. The next thing I know, I'm standing at the edge of an abyss, and behind me is what appeared to be the place where I had been tied down, and the fluorescent lights were glowing all around the building. So I knew I had a choice. I could either stay here and maybe be caught again and taken back to hell, or I could walk across that abyss and maybe be found. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know if I was back on Earth or another dimension of hell. So across this abyss it appeared to be like scaffolding, and it was about 10 inches wide and about 250 yards across to the other side. So I start walking across this abyss, and all of the pain that I felt before, all of the fear, I was just in shock and completely confused of what was happening. But I knew I had to make it across the abyss. Below me was this void of, I knew if I fell off the scaffolding that I would probably fall forever. I finally make it to the other side, and I'm just collapsed in gratitude and really feel like angels had been helping me make it across. When I looked back, the scaffolding was swaying in the wind, and I was shocked that I had even made it across. I'm praying to God, please help me, send me a sign where to go. I'm so lost. And at that time, a hummingbird comes and circles around my head and starts flying north. So I follow this hummingbird for a while, and it leaves, and I'm praying again to please help me and send me another sign. And a large bumblebee comes and does the same thing. It circles around my head and starts flying north. So I'm praying again, and this time a butterfly comes and is leading me again in that northern direction. The terrain is changing, and there's large trees and bushes around. I make it down a steep ravine, and at the bottom of the ravine was a stream, a creek. So I was able to drink water, and at this time my feet were on fire. They were defrosting from the frostbite, and I put my feet in the stream and they immediately cooled off. So I'll jump ahead to the 11th day when I was found. Although I will say that those nights that I spent in the forest, I was finally able to do energy healing on myself, and was able to channel energy through prayer and felt the flow of energy in my feet again. And I really feel like that helped me save my feet, because I did think that they were going to be amputated. So the morning of the 11th day, I'm lying next to a river, and I am just completely exhausted. I know that I'm dying, and I'm thinking, I'm not going to be found. No one knows where I was. It would be a miracle if I was found. So I must have lost consciousness. The next thing I know is I'm being licked on the face by a golden retriever dog. At first I thought, I'm hallucinating again. This isn't real. But that dog kept licking me on the face, and I just was so happy. A few minutes after, a man comes through the bushes and he says, "Are you Kelly Ashford?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And he says, "Well, I'm Greg with Grand County Search and Rescue, and we've been searching for you for the last 5 days." And I said, "How did you find me? How did you know where to look?" And he said that my husband had called in a missing person report, and someone had found my vehicle and called in the license plate. So they started from where my car was, and they followed my bloody footprints, and that's how they found me. So next to my bloody footprints were bear tracks, and that must have been the animal that I heard following me, crashing around in the forest. And so I had been stalked by a bear, but I felt lucky that I was alive and that I was safe, and I had been told that it was there to protect me. The search and rescue comes with a cot, and they carry me to the ambulance. I'm taken to Frisco Hospital, and I stay there for about 4 days, and then go home. And I'll say that whatever it was that was compelling me, that voice never left. When I came back home, it was still there and still compelling me to go places and do things. And it was only through constant prayer that things got better eventually, and the voice went away. For a long time, I was praying the St. Michael's Chaplet and an exorcism prayer and praying to God to just help me and make this go away. So it took about probably 7 years before I was well enough to. I actually never talked about my story to anyone, and I kind of felt like it was so unbelievable, and I just couldn't even understand it myself what had happened to me. But eventually I got better, and then wrote the book Endurance, and it's now available on Amazon and can be ordered through your favorite bookstore. You can also find out more information on kellyashford.com, and I believe there's more information in the description below if you'd like to learn more. Thank you for having me.